Right, my name is Douggie Can. I first sailed on the Malcolm Miller in 1971. My company sponsored me for the 2 weeks. They paid all my expenses, and I'd never been to sea before. And it was in the days when the ships were run on a pretty military lines, and I just took to it like duck to water. The following winter, the ships went into West India docks, and we would work on the refit. Then they discovered I was a welder, and that was it. They wanted anything fixed. Phone up Doug. Phone up Doug. Uh, I carried on for a couple of years, studying as a trainee, and then they eventually asked me to go back as a watch leader. So I did a watch leader in the early 1970s, and it just progressed through there till I decided in 1979, by then I'd sailed as chef's assistant and bosun's mate, that actually I was getting a bit old in the tooth. So the captain at the time, Captain Mark Chemispelli, said, can you come back as bosun? And I was sort of panicked. Well, asked the other crew, so I said, yeah, that's all right. So I spent another 4 or 5 years as bosun on the ship, including a television documentary. So that was my introduction.
My name's Sally Worley. Well, I was cropper when I first went aboard. I heard about it from a friend, and the first trip I did was on the Malcolm Miller in 1973 from Birkenhead to Dundee around the north of Scotland with Captain Shaw and Peter Chinocchio was the first mate, and I loved every minute of it. And then they asked me back as a watch leader, so I then did another trip on the Malcolm Miller in 74 and in 75 on the Malcolm Miller, and that's when I met Douggie, and we've been friends for the last 40 odd years. And then in 76 I heard about the transatlantic tall ships race, and I applied and was offered a berth, and that was the most wonderful experience, and met a lot of friends, and we're still 40 years, we're still in touch, and we had our 40th reunion in June. And I also met my husband through the tall ships because I was doing slideshows, and he asked me to do a slideshow, and we got together that way. So it's really been a big part of my life on the tall ships.
Okay. If you got something to say, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say that having given the responsibility of sailing as bosun, it changed the whole ball game because your responsibilities then multiply, and you took your skills that you learned as a trainee and as the assistants, and you could do, if you set your mind to it, you could do anything, because what the sailings, the STA and sail training is all about is convincing people that they can do something. A lot of people spend their life running around telling them things that they can't do. But with the ships, it is, you can do it, you will do it, not can you do it. And this, after 40 odd years, I'm still in touch with people whose lives are completely changed by this ethos of, whether it's a simple thing like climbing up the rigging and down the other side. When you look at it, it petrifies most people. But once they've done it, they've got this sense of achievement, and this goes on in everything they do. And there's people that they've come from school, it was turning their lives around, because suddenly you realise, yeah, I can do that. And that is the one thing that SCA, I think Sally will agree with that. We've had some real, what you might call basket cases. These are children that had no confidence, had broken homes, all kinds of things, but they've been turned round by just this simple thing of 2 weeks on a sailing ship, not being troublesome Freddie from East London or something like that, but a member of the crew. You put them in their crew smock or their shirts, put them in their oilskins, and they just look like anybody else. And they can go and achieve. And when they go back ashore, they go out into ordinary life, they will take that experience with them. I think you'll agree with that. Yeah.
Definitely, yes, because when I went back and used to help with the cadets in our sailing club, and you want to put something back that you've learnt, the teamwork and the camaraderie and, you know, relying on one another, and that you have to have each other and work as a team.
Yeah, having said that, although it seems very serious and businesslike, one of the great things about the ships is the adventures and the funny things that happen. Things that, I'm trying to think of a sort of example at the moment where, say you stop off at a barbecue. On one occasion, they did a barbecue on Lundy Island. Prior to that, as a bosun, they woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning to take the camera crew onto Lundy Island and film the sun coming up with the two ships in the background. When we got to the shore, the cloud came over and that was it, finished. So we went back to the ship, got everything for the barbecue back on the island, and everybody had a wonderful time.
But of course, Douggie and I both did the transatlantic tall ships race in '76, and you did the leg from
Tenerife to Bermuda.
And
it was a bit difficult, there was no wind. So it took us 3 weeks to waft along till we eventually got to Bermuda. And, at one stage we were so becalmed, the captain put the support boat, a little outboard motor boat, over the side, and everybody went swimming. Whilst they were swimming, unbeknownst to other people, the bosun appeared in the middle of all those swimming in the sea, shattered the captain, it's a sandy bottom, and came up with a small bag of sand. What he didn't know is he'd got this sand in a plastic bag from a bucket that was on board, and everybody just fell about laughing at that kind of thing. So,
we picked the ship up in Bermuda. We'd flown out, and we waved to we were just coming in to Bermuda, and you were just going out, and we waved to you as they were going out. So we never actually got to meet the boys.
It was like sort of crossing on the runway.
it was the most fantastic time. Yeah. I remember going with my friend Jane, who I'd met on the ship, and we went to the Princess Hotel, and we got to the top of the stairs, and everything was wonderful. And she said, "Pinch me, I don't think I'm really here." And that night was the night I won a bottle of champagne limbo dancing. I don't think I could do it now.
Limbo dancing.
Anyway, we met up with all the crew, and the captain was Captain Collis, and the chief officer was Bill Tanner, and Derek, the cook, was absolutely wonderful, the food he produced, and then Mike Stevens was the engineer, and Nobby was the bosun. And we had a wonderful time with them. The weather was fairly steady going to Bermuda, and then we were becalmed, and we had to motor into Bermuda. But the reception, once we got into Rhode Island, was fantastic. The boats were absolutely heaving. I've never seen so many people there. And then we left for there to go up to New York for the Parade of Sail, and we motored down through the East River, and the people standing on the sides of the riverbanks I've never seen so many people. And we went and anchored out under the bridge and past the Statue of Liberty. And the next day we came and did a big parade of sail with all the other tall ships up the Hudson River. And then we moored in the South Street Seaport Museum. And we were sponsored by the Royal Globe, and we were asked to go to receptions for their members. So there was champagne, and it was flowing like mad. Not that we could drink too much,
right.
But we had a fantastic time. And then we sailed up to Boston and finished the race in Boston. But the camaraderie and the bonding, I think, that 4 weeks was fantastic. And I said earlier that we kept in touch the last 40 years. But unfortunately, Jane, who hoped to be here tonight, she passed away in March, and without Jane, I don't think we'd have still been together. So this is a tribute to Jane Powell for keeping us all together and keeping the schooners alive for us all.
These are tall ships races. Normally the major ones are every 4 years, but they do a mini tall ships race in between. This is smaller yachts and smaller boats. The main one, they have all the big square riggers from America, Russia and such other places. Sally and I have talked today about the trip across Bermuda, but one trip I took part in was in 1985. Went from Chatham up to Margate, up the east coast of East Anglia, and then over to Zeebrugge. The miller on that particular occasion was sailing really fast and was well ahead of many others in the field. Then we got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning for a yacht that had lost its sails and lost its engine. So the captain immediately called all hands. He pulled out of the race, located where this yacht was, and the chief officer at the time managed to get a heaving line in the middle of the gale, pouring with rain, over to this yacht, and we managed to pull it in, tow it into Zeebrugge. Now, this was a really significant point, because at that time, I think it was the Heysel Stadium where the Liverpool fans and the local, I think it was Juventus, rioted, and a large number of people lost their lives. And what we did was the opposite. What happened? We saved lives, and it was recognised that we'd done so. And the Malcolm Miller was awarded with the Cutty Salt Trophy, which was the main trophy of the event. And from Zeebrugge, we went down the canal into Bruges, and the whole way down, as the ship, as the Malcolm Miller sailed down the canal, all the crowd on the lining the banks, they applauded the ship as it went past, and the young people on board, the young boys, had a wonderful reception in Belgium, which is completely the opposite from what happened in the Heysel Stadium. So, any more?
Connect with them at all?
Well, there were the Falcon and Gladen. They were the Swedish ones. Some of the crew got to know some of the crew from Gladen, I know, and we met up with some of the Russians from Tovarich, and some of the other British crews we met up with. But I think we were probably a little bit more insular than some of the other crews, because a friend was on Master Builder and they'd sailed over, and they went up to Mystic Seaport and were allowed to sort of do more meeting the Americans and meeting different things. But yes, we mixed with the crews at some of the venues.
What you have to bear in mind at that time was the political situation. A lot of the big square riggers were very much government funded, so you had a certain amount of politics. But in later, some of the early ones and some of the later tall ships races, there was a much freer movement among the crew. We did one that finished in Amsterdam, and all the crew could go from ship to ship. They socialised in Amsterdam. They had parties. Various ships had parties on board, besides the ones that were on the jetty. So it really was a get together internationally. And as the relations between countries warmed, then the relations between the ships became that much better, because they got this mutual background of using the sea for their development, whether it was for fisheries, whether it's for the Navy, American Coast Guard, or just local sailing organisations like the Ocean Youth Club, the Sail Training Association. They all mixed and they got together. They were all part of one team, all trying to do something to allow young people to develop their personalities, their skills, and just be together. I think that was about right. Yeah.
And long-lasting friendships as well.
Yeah. We both have friends. We have friends in Vancouver, down in Switzerland,
I have a friend
Japan,
in New Zealand.
New Zealand, Australia. It is worldwide. And if you mention to people, oh, you've been on such and such sailing trip, particularly now with the advent of the internet and social media, more and more people are managing to get in touch, and they find, although their lives are very different, they have this route that was formed by sound training. I think you'll agree with that.
I would
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, made a big change to my life, certainly. And, the schooners have always been there for the last 40 years, all the way through.
Well, it changed my life. I ended up marrying.
Yes,
So-
after you had come off the Malcolm Miller, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was on the
you-
Malcolm Miller. We met up about 15 years later, and
Yes.
then got married. And I think everything
So
went
lots
downhill
of-
for
lots
her.
of
From
romances. I was talking to a couple earlier on, and they said they'd met on the Malcolm Miller as well.
Mm.
So I'm sure it's
It's very much a unifying
there's
thing.
been a lot of romances from the schooners as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Oh,
You won't
I
stop
see.
Douggie, he'll keep going.
Well, that's the thing. I think we've covered all bases, all the questions that I had.
yeah,
So I'm happy if you're happy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's,
Okay.
it's just this. It's just using sound training, not to teach people how to become the next roughy toughy sailor, but to show them that through sailing, you can develop skills. You can develop communication. You can develop understanding of other people, and I think it's probably one of the things that we do find today. That's a lot of people, like they don't communicate. They don't chat. They don't talk. I mean, we've been here 4 or 5 hours tonight, and I don't think anybody stopped chatting.
No, definitely not.
No, I haven't stopped chatting.
And we've made different friends now. We've met people and chatted to different people. We've learnt their experiences, and exchanged our experiences.
And that's even when you weren't on the same voyages.
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
in common.
Because you were in
Yes.
sail training.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
But you've got a common factor to relate to.
Yeah.
You understand one another because you've done the same things.
Suffered the same thing.
Yeah. Seasickness, yeah.
Which is a really bad friend.
well, that was okay for it.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fundamental thing, isn't it? Scrubbing the decks, washing up, cooking. Yes, we did have one funny thing. There was a chap, Nobby Hall, used to be the bosun, and he came back, I think, a little later to about 4 or 5 years later. He sailed as chef, and we were in a particularly rough passage. There was like the water coming over the side deck, and we saw him running down the side deck, heading towards the galley, and he just managed to jump into the doorway. The door was like half ajar, and he jumped into the galley. He said, "I missed me," and it followed him. The wave followed him in, and he was absolutely saturating. You've got to laugh at these things. He didn't appreciate it,
No,
but
no.
we've got to laugh. Miss me, but gotcha. So yes, it's the galley is the centre of cooking. The galley is the centre of the ship.
Food is
You
very
want to know
important.
anything? Go and ask the galley. What time are we going to the port? Go and ask the galley.
Yeah, but food is important on
Oh,
the
yeah.
ships, isn't it?
Well, the chef's the most important
Yeah,
person
yeah.
on the ship.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
If you haven't got a cook,
No.
you haven't got a ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I actually checked it once. I did a trip as bosun, which basically you're up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. You're mooching around all day. You might, just after lunch, you might sort of put your feet up like for an hour or so. But then you're up in the afternoon and you start, and it's just go, go, go. You're up, down, you're in port, you're out of port, launching the boats, like supervising children. And over a 2-week period, I had cooked breakfast, cooked lunch, cooked evening meal, plus snacks in between, and then we're going on shore, have a couple of beers, maybe a bag of chips, back on board ship, cocoa first thing in the morning. And over the 2 weeks, having eaten all that lot, I still lost half a stone. So, how much is that? £8
Yes.
in 2 weeks. And there's nothing of me. It's not much bigger, but when as small as me, you sort of suddenly losing £8.
I used to put on weight when I was.
You did?
Yeah.
You see, you should have been bosun.
What
You gallop around.
You didn't do enough work.
No.
I was, not mine. You heard this, Kevin, you can use this using evidence later.
Yeah, but the thing that I remember, there was a documentary made of the 76 trip, and Sally is in
I'm in the galley.
stirring this big pot, telling the cook what to
Derek
do.
Derek Allen, I was
Yes.
lovely.
And she's only the galley rat, My name's Kevin Worley. I'm Sally Worley's husband. Sally was Sally Cropper. We met because she asked me to do I asked her to do a slideshow for a charity I was involved with at that time, and things carried on. I've never actually been on a cruise on any of the ships, but I've done everything that everybody else has done, either alongside or in dry dock. So I'm a bit of a fraud, really, but I've been out on the yards, I've scrubbed the decks, painted the bottom, and washed up. Yes, you keep me on.
Washed up everyone.
Yeah. And mind you, get extra food for washing up. That was one thing I learned quite quickly.
Uh-huh.
Volunteer to help the cook, and you end up with a few extras.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I've always supported the schooners, and I mean, when we first got together, you went away on a trip, and you were away for a fortnight in a horrendous winter gale, force 9 in the Channel, and in those days you couldn't watch the weather conditions that you could now, and you just waited for reports on the radio of a schooner being aground or something like that. But it's a different world in those days, and that was way back in, was it 77? 77, yeah. So yeah, I've always been, actually, I have to say, my family were involved with the sea, but I've never actually got involved with the schooners. It's a funny little thing. Staying with a friend, our friend Jane, who sadly died, down the coast, so we used to commute up and get involved in that way. So it was long days, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're in Shorehams, early start, and then late home after we had a good meal and whatever in the evening. Everybody was the same. Whenever a job came up, somebody give me a hand, and everybody volunteered. There was no, I suppose you found that as well, Douggie. Nobody actually stood back and said, "Oh, I need to be asked."
Yeah.
When a job came up, it's part of what you had to do, no matter how dirty it was or how boring, mediocre.
I think
it was all part of the job.
Talking to one of the wives, her husband sails. I mean, it's very important to have your partners and your family supporting you when you go on the trips as well.
Because I was involved with general maintenance. I mean, I'm not an engineer, so it was just general maintenance. Because I volunteered, I was treated as an equal, and nobody said, "Oh, you can't do this because you haven't been at sea," or anything. So it was a great atmosphere. It was a completely inclusive atmosphere, and it was no sort of, nobody wore any badges said, "I've been to sea, I haven't." It was just everybody was included in the work. The work needed to be done. We all did it.
It was actually one of the wonderful things about the ship. Although you had the 2-week trips and later on the 1-week trips where people would go sailing, whenever the ships was a call in a British port, whether it's Southampton, Portsmouth, Glasgow, Oban, particularly if there was a week in, like where the crew would have a rest, the crew would change round, you would store the ship, maintenance, things like that. You would get this army of people. They just appear, whether it's like taking all the laundry ashore, or restocking like the stores and the fridges. Something like had been damaged, then you could repair it. And very often, someone would know someone with special facilities to carry out repair. I did one trip in the north of Scotland where they damaged what was called a whisker pole, where you've got the main bowsprit. You've got these poles that come out and they sort of spread the load, a bit like a spreader on a mast. And unfortunately, a wind had caught the ship and it had bent this. And someone phoned ahead, "Oh, I know so and so and so and so." So as soon as we got into port, got everybody ashore, we put the gang together, we de-rigged it, and got it ashore. The chap turned up with a van, took it away, put it in his furnace, re-straightened it, we got it back on board, re-rigged it, and within 3 days we were ready to sail again. But this was the support that you had. You had people into electronics, they were into welding, engineering, anything.
I mean, the ships are very high profiles in real life. So we live in Plymouth, so we could look down the River Plymouth, we could see into Plymouth Sound. So, there's a schooner coming in. So we'd find out where she was, and we could go there, like Mill Bay Docks or Cadown or whatever. Do you need anything? And I remember one occasion, Mike Stevens was the engineer. We came on board and chatting to Mike. He said, I need a specialist type of oil for, I don't know what it was, for a gland or something like that. Do you know where I can get it? Well, I said, yeah, these are the different oil distributors. You can try them in Plymouth. Of course, he saved in going through the directory, and he just phoned up and said, yeah, thank you very much. And they did, and also they delivered it free of charge because it was a schooner. Yeah, yeah, no problem, sir. We'll drop it down to when are you in and all that sort of thing. So it's all that sort of thing, isn't it? But just to see the ships 3 masts sticking above Mill Bay Docks sometimes, we go, whoa, and the car would do a detour into the docks.
Let's get down there. Yeah. It's one of the. I think it's one of the sad things actually about in the latter years of the schooners that they lost their, and also like with the brigs, they lost their public profile. Once upon a time, during the 70s and 80s and early 90s, you said, oh, Malcolm Miller, Winston Churchill, Lord Nelson, Tenacious. And people knew, that's that ship that comes in. But as soon as they started going out of the public view, what? Oh, what? And it's keeping that, well, if anybody runs any kind of business or charity, if you lose your public profile, then you start losing your support. And you lose your support, then I think this is one of the areas where I think the Jubilee Sailing Trust is, because I've been to places where people haven't sailed, but they've raised money and they know someone's involved with it, and you're on the Jubilee Sailing Trust, or they've got a T-shirt on. Yeah.
But the old local committees used to do an amazing amount of work, didn't they? The amount of money they used to raise for the schooners, and they used to pay for sponsorship for the trainees to go on board, or I'm just looking at the flags. They used to buy flags, they used to buy sails, pay for the maintenance and come down and all sorts of things. So there was an amazing amount of goodwill everywhere.
There's these local committees. Some of them really stuck out, like the Lincolnshire Committee, East Anglia Committee. I think there was a couple in Cornwall.
I was talking to a lady who was on the Foy Committee. And she told me she eventually got to sail on the ships.
How many years was it?
But this is one of the things that you'll get.
Do you mind if